Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by Manscaped. 20% off and free shipping on all their top-of-the-line men's grooming products when you use promo code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. Now, we know how the Cowboys tend to operate. They don't like spending money in free agency. They typically go bargain bin shopping. With the franchise tag players out of the way and some players getting released, let's take a look today at some of the top realistic free agent targets for the Cowboys. I'll sprinkle in a couple of guys that might be pushing that figure, but I think are really good fits. Now, we will have you covered on any and all Cowboys free agency signings. Even if it's just Chuma Edoga again, we got you covered. I pray to God it's more. Hit that sub button right now. Some cheaper running backs. I don't think they're going to spend for a big name like Barkley or Jacobs or Henry. These three names, Jerick McKinnon, Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, fit the third down scat back mold. That's reflected in their complete lack of carries. Gibson maybe is the most intriguing of that bunch. Ironically, you have another Memphis back in the fold. But if your plan is we're going to draft a running back on day 2, day 3, whatever, and early day 3, which you know our fourth round pick complicates it, and have him be the power back, you could get a cheaper third down back and do that as the rotation. Gibson stands out the most to me of that group. 3 more names, and these guys might be in between the super cheap range and the expensive range. Might be more in the Tony Pollard cost, which I didn't include current Cowboys players. It's outside free agent targets. Don't sleep on Pollard returning, by the way. But Devin Singletary, Zack Moss, and James Conner all had very successful seasons last year, despite not getting a massive workload of carries. Zack Moss seems to be the popular general fan base of, let's just sign him for half the cost of Derrick Henry, Jacobs, Barkley, etc. I think that makes sense. Also makes me wonder if there might be more of a market for those guys than previously thought. Some cheaper running backs also stand out. Guys that are kind of more, bounce back candidates. J.K. Dobbins barely played last year because of injury. D'Onta Foreman was productive when he got the ball, but was kind of stuck on the Bears' depth chart, barring injuries. A.J. Dillon was not very good last year, but he's a bigger back, much like Foreman is. Dobbins, Texas native, could be a redemption arc candidate piece. But it's a strong running back class, and if we include Pollard in that group, I think they're going to sign somebody. So how many outside free agents, non-re-signings, will the Cowboys make this year? Technically speaking, last year it was 3. It was Ronald Jones, who did nothing, the long snapper, and Chuma Edoga. I'm not counting UFL guys in that bunch, which the fact that we have to have that conversation shows how little they do in free agency. Get your predictions in, though, for me right now in the comments. It might not be the Patrick Queen-esque name, but I would be very surprised if the Cowboys left free agency and got to the draft with no starting caliber linebackers signed. There are a bunch of them. Eric Kendricks has ties to Mike Zimmer. Azeez Al-Shaair, Josey, Jewell, and Jordyn Brooks are all solid run stoppers who may or may not and really aren't great in coverage, but that fits what the Cowboys need right now at linebacker. Blake Cashman is an athletic piece who I think might be a better fit as a weak side player, but still. Jordan Hicks did some blitzing stuff with the Vikings last year. Run stopper, veteran, fits the mold of what I think Dallas is going to be searching for. Jerome Baker was cut by the Dolphins, so he would not impact the Cowboys' precious comp pick formula. Maybe a buy low guy like Willie Gay, who was a little bit inconsistent in Kansas City. Frankie Luvo might be on the upper echelon, if not above, the Cowboys' price range. But in terms of what I think Mike Zimmer is looking for, a linebacker who can stop the run, be a veteran, blitz, Luvo fits that to a T. That might be the semi-realistic dream target at linebacker. Nicholas Morrow has been linked by Michael Gelkin for a few years in a row now. Probably another good name to consider for the Cowboys. So will the Cowboys sign a linebacker? Y for yes or N for no? It's the pinned comment on today's video, so get those votes in if the ad comes here on YouTube. I'll mention 3 more linebacker options here. Devin White, Kenneth Murray, and Isaiah Simmons. All 3 guys that, look, they've been busts. Let's call it what it is. I would maybe rank them in reverse order. Simmons would be super cheap, but I don't know what you're going to do with him, so you have to have a real good plan there, and maybe it's just not been the right spots for him so far. Very possible. Kenneth Murray can blitz a little bit, makes him an intriguing fit. But Murray and Devin White, I don't trust their eyes. They miss tackles, and I got really bad reviews on Devin White coming out of the combine, which I don't want to go that route. All right, let's talk offensive linemen here. Some guys who can play center, since you don't expect Tyler Biadasz to be back. The options: Connor Williams, Mitch Morse, Graham Gaskell, and Mason Cole. You can see their grades on here. Now, Williams would have been very expensive had he not tore his ACL. Maybe he doesn't want to come back to Dallas anyway. Glasgow, I think, could be a little bit expensive as well, with just the flexibility that he offers at center. I thought Mason Cole was pretty bad last year, but he can also play guard. Mitch Morse might be the best option because he can be a stopgap. You can still let Brock Hoffman fight for a role and or draft somebody fairly early on. Now, today's show is made possible by Manscaped. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure that your shamrock is shaved the way it's supposed to be with our friends over at Manscaped. Don't just chase rainbows, make your own pot of gold and your own luck, and grow your little leprechaun with the leaders in below the kilt care. Hope you appreciate the Irish and St. Patrick's Day's puns involved there. Your new lucky charm for St. Patrick's Day is the Lawnmower 5.0. This trimmer comes with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads. One for a classic trim, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. They got dual LED spotlights so you can navigate your shamrock patch in peace. You get 20% off and free shipping over at manscaped.com when you use promo code COWBOYS. That's 20% off and free shipping with code COWBOYS over at manscaped.com. Links in the comment section and the description of today's show. Let's hit some offensive linemen here, some tackles that maybe could help you out. Yosh Neiman didn't play a ton for Green Bay, but he's got a little bit of starting experience. George Fant offers left side and right side ability, so that could be a good swing tackle for you. Kendall Lamb actually played pretty well, getting flipped around from both sides when the Dolphins had injuries on their offensive line. Are these players better than Tyron Smith? No, they are not. But if you weren't going to pay Tyron what he wants, you're not going to pay other guys who would be better even more. So I'm operating from the sign the veteran swing tackle that the Cowboys seem to do every single offseason. I'll mention some corners here. I would rather just bring back Stephon Gilmore or draft somebody in a pretty solid class. Christian Fulton I liked him a lot coming out of LSU. He had a great second season and then has kind of fallen apart since then. Trey White, if the medicals check out, massive if. I think Darius Williams could actually be a decent buy low option with inside-outside flex. I'm curious what his contractual demands are going to end up looking like, though. I'll mention one safety in a very strong safety class, a guy that I've always been a fan of. That was Justin Simmons. 70 tackles, 3 interceptions this past year. The INTs dipped a little bit. The tackle rate dipped a little bit relative to games played. He's still a good football player, though. I think his football IQ would fit really well with Mike Zimmer. Cedric Wilson Jr., meanwhile, wouldn't it just make sense for Dallas? You cut Michael Gallup, you bring Ced back on like a vet minimum deal. I actually have no issues doing that, by the way, because it's not a good receiver class, and I would rather just cover off my bases and in case I don't get the value or I don't fill my other needs, and that way I don't have to draft somebody in what is a good draft class at the wide receiver spot. So who are we sending the energy for in free agency this offseason? Who do you want the Dallas Cowboys to sign this year? Drop that player name or names for me in the comments section. A couple of free agent defensive linemen I want to mention on today's show because I wouldn't be shocked if they added somebody. Armin Watts, I don't think will be that expensive, has ties to Mike Zimmer, and did a good job in a very small sample size stopping the run last year for the Steelers. I think that'd be a smart move. Malcolm Roach offers some intriguing upside as a former earliest draft pick. I would love Danico Autry. I have no idea how much he's going to command, but that is the exact type of, he can play some defensive end, can reduce inside, play defensive tackle. He has been productive. Danico Autry, despite being a bit older, I think is one of, if not my favorite, like semi-realistic target, and I worry he'll get more on the market, but age brings those contracts down. Although Fatukasi has already been cut by the Jags. He can do some run-stopping stuff. So too can A'Shawn Robinson. I focus mostly on big old run-stopping defensive tackles. Osa's going to be back as a defensive tackle, as a 3 technique. Maybe you can draft somebody to help fill that role as well. I would like to invest in a veteran run stopper because you need more of those guys with, or maybe even without, or maybe but certainly without Jonathan Hankins as well. I won't go too far on the pass rusher side. I will mention 2 of them. Emmanuel Ogbah had been cut by the Dolphins. He'd been linked somewhat to the Dolphins or to the Cowboys previously. And I think Yannick Ngakoue, who has played under Mike Zimmer, by the way, and would be far cheaper than like Daniel Hunter would be a great fit in the Dante Fowler role. 3rd down pass rusher. Does he command that type of cost? I'm not so sure. Maybe he's a bit cheaper, and that makes it feasible for Dallas. But I wouldn't be opposed to that. And then you have, Tank and Micah, Ngakoue, and you hope Sam Williams has a breakout season.